because I like to get, these little kind of unplanned moments.
Right. From Thanksgiving through the New Year's, there's so often the burden falls upon the woman, I mean, which that's not about to criticize that because we are the keepers of the heart. Go into Walmart and look under my name and you can buy my book from Walmart.
That's
Is
crazy.
that cool?
Welcome to Just the Who of Us, hosted by Reah Higgs. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations around mental health, life journeys, holistic wellnesses, and the experiences that shape who we are. Take a breath, settle in, and join Reah and today's guests as we explore the stories that connect us.
From Thanksgiving through the New Year's, there's so often the burden falls upon the woman, I mean, which that's not about to criticize that because we are the keepers of the hearth in most instances, and we are providing the food and the coming together. But there's also a big gap where there isn't always help, and then a bigger gap where it's an expectation that you have to do it. It always has to be your burden or your house or your planning. And how can we find a way? I would say this is for the women even to find a way to be more truthful and honest with each other, and to say, I love the family. I love getting together. And this year I'm not in, I don't want to do it. Not I can't, because there's always that opening. Well, if you can't, well, maybe if you tried a little harder, rather than I decided this year I don't want to do it this way. This is what I need. This is how I'd like it to unfold. Because if we're not able to speak honestly to each other as mothers or the grandmother or the aunties that whose houses it's at, we can't really expect anybody else to step up to that.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we're tired, but we also, I think, we get resentful and we get bitter. And then we get angry with each other, and then we spoil the purpose of the gatherings, or at least for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, this has honestly been like kind of my favorite thing to talk about this year. I talked a little bit about it last year, because last year was the first year that we didn't have my grandmother, who is the head of the
Mm,
family, right?
mm,
And so last year was kind of a discovery for me. Okay, well, for certain reasons, we didn't get together as a family. And last year was kind of, yeah, it was like rediscovering, okay, well, what does that look like now? Because
yeah.
the matriarch is gone. And, usually when the matriarch of the family passes, then there becomes new matriarchs of each
Yes.
individual
Yeah.
families. And that kind of it happened so quickly last year.
Mhm.
We kind of intended to keep things the same, but certain things happened and it just didn't work out that way. And so it was last year was me discovering, okay, how what do I do?
Right.
How do I do this? I'm my mom's only child. So it goes to, well, my uncle's family and my mom's family. So my
Mhm.
aunt heads that household, my mom heads hers. And, now we kind of break off and we spend the day um, with our children, grandchildren,
Mhm.
and then this year I became a grandmother. So this
Oh,
holiday,
that's so exciting for
I,
me.
right, right, because going in, I was like, I'm only 40 years old. Like, I don't know how to feel about this, quite
Yeah.
honestly. My mother became a grandmother probably about the same age.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, probably about the same age.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of think back to, okay, what did my mom do? How did she step up? Of course, I was much younger when I made her grandmother than my daughter is. She
Yes.
made
Yeah.
me a grandmother. Luckily, she was a lot older than I was. But, okay, so how do I step in? How do I step up? What do I do? What's my boundaries? And that,
Yeah. So I have three adult children. They're all in their 50s. My my daughter's in the middle. So I had a son that was late 30s, a daughter at age 40, and a son that was 43. My daughter had a baby at age 40. That was the first grandchild. So that was I and what happened for me is that I loved children. I wanted to be a grandma, and there was this place of like, well, probably that's not going to happen, you know.
Yeah,
And I had to step away from that and really remind myself that as much as you would like to be a grandmother and you think you'd be a good grandma, it's not your business.
right, right.
It's and what what you wish for your children is isn't about you wanting to them to have children, because that's the last thing in the world that we need is for more people to have children when they're either not ready or not capable of caring for them, or they don't want them.
I could not agree more.
And so I think to say that, and it's not doesn't have to be that your kids are already older, just to want to be a grandma is perhaps natural for some women. And I kept stepping back. It's not your business. And it really, I don't think it's a business to say anything to your children. Well, when are you going to have kids? Or aren't you going to have a family? And maybe in times past, this was more relevant because children were considered the wealth of the family, or you had somebody to take care of you in your old age, or somebody to work on the farm with you. And that so that desire is still there, but perhaps the relevance isn't. And we live in a time that's very different than it was. And I mean, of course, everything changes, so that's a
Yeah.
stupid comment to make, but it's just not the same. And that even if you have kids, there's no guarantee they're going to take care of you. Right?
Well, because at a certain point in time, that was, and still in a lot of other countries, that was the kind of grand design, right? You
Mhm.
get married, you have children, you get older, your children take care of you, and that was kind of the cycle.
Right.
And not to say that I think that's great, um, but it's not always realistic, for
No.
different reasons. Because sometimes when our parents get older, we either can't afford or not emotionally capable
Hmm.
or don't have the physical space, whatever the case may be. Because if we think back to kind of beginning familial structure and values and all these things, there was a plan for a reason. And
Hmm.
if that plan worked correctly, then this is what a household unit would look like, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the case now.
No.
Families look like all many different things, and that's okay, you know. But things have changed, and
Yeah.
like you said, times have changed, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But we're not always in positions to where we can take care of our parents for
Hmm.
one reason or another.
Yeah.
And so,
Or or in some cases we don't want to. And I think that that's not spoken very often. You know,
yeah,
if you say that I don't want to be the caregiver for my parents or parent,
yep,
and then there's this criticism or shaming or uh, questioning. It's like, well, that's selfish of you because look at
right,
all they did for you. You know, I mean, we get that pushback, and it discourages us. Those, anyone who wants to be able to say that truthfully from their heart, this is the truth of my life. I don't want to take care of you.
yeah, yeah,
Not,
and
and
that's
it
not
doesn't even
that's
have
not
to be I
mean.
can't. No, it isn't. It's actually because sometimes you see this place where that goes back to the obligation of things. Well, you're the youngest child, you're not married, you don't have any children of your own, so the family expects you to
Right.
do something. And then that's again the setup. I think that's also set up for abuse in its own way,
Yeah.
abuse of the dynamic where you're doing something that you don't really want to do. And it's easy to say, well, just get over it and do it, but that's
Right.
not life either. So it's there is no one answer. There's no solution.
Yeah.
I believe we benefit greatly when we talk about these things, when
Yes.
we actually are willing to bring out into the open. If I really tell the truth, and we'll go back to my book. One of the My Women of the Always book has 26 topics, and one of the topics, I list them as single words. One of the topics is truth. And so then the heading of the chapter is If I Really Tell the Truth. And that it encourages and invites the reader to have those conversations and have those opportunities to be able to say, if I really tell the truth, I don't want to do this. But that doesn't discount if I really tell the truth, I love my mother. If I really tell the truth, I don't want to take care of her.
Yeah,
Can two things that are contradictory exist side by side and both of them be true for you? And it's just as necessary for you to say one as it is for you to say the other. Because in that, I think we open up to each other in a way that allows for a lot more harmony, and you have a voice, even if you say, I don't want to take care of you, and I do anyway, or I don't want to, but I also do.
right.
That's freeing.
Yeah. You know, but I love that you bring this up because it's something that's kind of on my heart in my own situation. So I'm not going to go into great detail because I don't want to paint like a negative picture. But there's someone close to me who I saw taking care of their mother. They weren't the only child, but they were the unmarried child, right? So, well, unmarried at now. They were currently single. Their sibling is married. Neither one of them have children in the home. They both have grandchildren that live outside the home, but most of the burden, and I will say burden because
Yeah.
the situation did create a burden, but most of the burden was placed on one of the adult children.
Hmm.
The other adult child lives about an hour away. So, it's not like they're both around the corner, but this is the one that was closest. This is the one that didn't have a partner. And so this is the one that essentially carried this burden. And it became a burden because there was very little help.
Hmm.
Like I would come and help when I could, but again, I don't live close either. So it became a burden. And I saw this relationship very strained. There was a lot of frustration, a lot of just tiredness.
Hmm.
And it created this kind of friction,
Yeah.
and I don't want that. Like it's not that I don't want the responsibility. It's that I don't want that relationship damaged.
No.
I didn't help care for my father in his last days. Well, they live 2 hours away from me. Again, I'm not right around the corner. And that's my choice. I chose to move kind of away from everyone and not like in a mean way, but this is where we found the home that we fell in love with to buy. And that's
Hmm.
just how it happened. Like
Yeah.
I wish certain people were closer, but we're happy here. And so I don't feel bad about that. Uh, so but I didn't really. I wasn't down all the time. There's a lot with my relationship with my father that I talk about in my podcast and in my autobiography that I loved him, but it was easier for me to stay away for
Hmm.
a lot of his addictive time. And so I didn't take care of him a lot, you know.
Hmm.
But I don't feel bad about that. And
Hmm.
no one makes me feel bad about my stepmom doesn't make me feel bad about it. My sister doesn't. When he passed, they kept telling me how much he loved me and all not like, why weren't you there? Like never, no one's ever done that to me. And I don't feel bad about it because it would have made our relationship worse. It would have
Hmm.
damaged me more to watch him deplete and I can't do anything about it, and so thank God that that he had my sister
Hmm.
to help
Hmm.
his wife care for him.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm otherwise a very caring and compassionate person, but I've had to learn over the years where to draw my boundaries.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I just, when the comments are made of like, oh, this will be, this is going to be you one day, this is going to be us one day, and it ugh,
Yeah.
like it makes me kind of like clam up because I don't want our relationship damaged because I'm overwhelmed and you're overwhelmed because being unable to care for yourself anymore, that's overwhelming too. So now
Mhm.
you have this person who is dealing with the difficulty of having to let go of control of their own life. And then you have the person caring for that person who sometimes, may or may not understand. I haven't been in this situation. I don't know what they're going through. All I see is they're frustrated with me. And, but, it's just,
Mhm.
I don't want it.
Mhm.
And so it's not to say that I don't want to make sure you're taken care of. Um, I want to see you often. I want to help take care of you, but it's just not a burden that I want to carry alone. And
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Well, and these are I mean, this is important to talk about it. This is also, I find that there's a certain accountability from the elder, from the parent,
Mhm.
as long as they're able to think.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the parent that makes the child feel guilty.
Yeah.
It's like, promise me that you will never put me in a home. Promise me that and so that's something that I also look at in myself at my age, as I'm closer to 80 than I am to 70, literally. And to question or to search, soul search, it's like, why would I, at this point in my life, say that to my children, or I even ask that, promise me that you won't do X, Y, Z. Well, I, ca- and then but I promised mom that I'd take care of her, but I can't. It's so we really need to have truth telling. And that goes back to, like you said, with your father. I'm glad I didn't take care of him. I wish that I could have taken care of him. Those two things are true. They
Yeah.
maybe are opposing, and they hold. We don't have to make a disclaimer
Right.
because you can make both statements and hold space for that. And then at the end, you can say, "I'm actually glad that I didn't take care of him."
Yeah.
That also holds power. Not I feel guilty or I wish that I could have, because in truth, you probably don't wish that you could have. You're glad that you didn't have to.
Yeah.
Or
And that's not mean. Like it doesn't mean that I hate him. It
no,
doesn't,
yeah, doesn't
that's
mean
just,
anything. It does,
yeah.
if it doesn't mean anything about us personally, other than we're willing to say the truth about our life, our circumstance, what we feel.
Right.
And and on a bigger I mean, open the conversation up bigger. And because I work with people all over the world, I work with people in lots of different settings, and everybody's concerned about friction and strife and all the problems that are going on globally, which that's always been the case. It's not
Yeah.
any worse now than it was before. And I mean, I want to protest this or put my energy into that. And I just say to them, then you come home, come back home. Because if you have that kind of strife and arguing and unkindness and so on in your family,
Yeah.
what makes you think that you have the right to talk about the problems in the world? Because until, and I remember my mom, some of these old sayings is like, sweep off your own front porch
Mhm.
first before you go worrying about your neighbor.
Yeah.
And and in these instances, these are neighbors far away. We can't really do anything about it, even
Yeah.
if we want to. But even more truthfully is what makes us think that we can do something about somebody else's problems when we don't take care of our own family, when we've
Yeah.
got that kind of division and strife and animosity and regret and all of that.
Yeah.
And then we're out way out there on the edges protesting something. Bring bring your energy home and spend time making peace in your family.
Yes.
And then that family unit that has peace is going to be able to hold space for another family and another family. And that's how things change.
Right.
So, I mean, that's my perspective, my opinion. Doesn't make it right or wrong, but I really believe that a lot of times when we protest things out there, it's best to start at home.
Yeah. You know, one of my daughters, this was, gosh, this was a while ago. I want to say they were maybe like 10 or so. And she said to me, I mean, this was like, yeah, this was before COVID. So this was a while ago. She was pretty young. And something happened in the world, and she was visibly upset. And she's like, Mom, like, this is really scaring me. And I said, and it wasn't, it was kind of like talk of something.
Hmm.
You know, when is was it the first time Trump was first? He first ran in 2016. Is that right?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I
Well,
think,
sometime around there, but during
yeah,
COVID, he wasn't. I don't remember.
I think the first time he ran. So it, because I think that it was around that, and there was something that he was saying that he wanted to do, or he was going to do, or something like that. And she was scared.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this is a valid concern. The fact that you're upset, I want to acknowledge that, and I want to acknowledge why. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about what this would actually look like. Let's talk about the probability of it happening. Let's talk about the probability of it turning out this way, the way that the
Mhm.
media is making it. And I think having conversations about the world with your kids, grandkids, is very important, because if you don't, social media will, right?
Well, right, and they're going to get it. They're not going to have a sounding board. They just hear it,
Right.
but they have no place to
Right.
put it.
Right. And I also use that as, okay, if you don't want this to be how the world is, right? What can we do as individuals? Because just being upset about it, we're not going to change anything that way.
Right.
So what can we do? Let's learn at 10. What can we do? How we carry ourselves, the decisions that we make, how can we make the world or impact the world in the way that we want it,
Hmm.
and start making a difference just with our lives. And then, we reflect on the other people will see our decision making, our thought process, and it impacts them. And so,
Yeah.
just kind of taking these moments where they see what's going on in the world, and they're like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
What can we do, even if it's on our in our own lives, even if it's just how we treat people? What can
Hmm.
we do to benefit and positively impact
Yeah.
people in the direction of the opposite of how this looks like it's
Hmm.
going?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And play out those options and possibilities. Even say, well, what would this look like at school for you if the
Yeah,
same kind of energy or unkindness or hatred? How have you ever seen that played out at school? Like, because I just had a dinner conversation with my grandson and my daughter, and he's almost 14. And some of their observations is like, well, I don't know. We were talking about school, and what do you think is the biggest problem in school? This almost 14-year-old boy said, the world has changed so fast. We have all these things, technology and cell phones, and our educational system has not changed in a couple hundred years.
yeah, yeah,
And, it's like, yeah, he wasn't about a solution. It was an observation of this is why things aren't working well, because what's in place isn't keeping up with what's happening.
absolutely.
And to just have a conversation about that, because whoever asks a kid, what do you think is broken in your educational system?
Yes,
Not you need to go to school, all the stuff we usually do, rather than have dialogue. And
right.
more kids would speak up and say, this doesn't work for us because the world is different.
Yeah,
And teaching is always the same, but the format, so I mean, there's so much beauty in honoring that we need to have more connection and communication, even in a time when there are a lot of screens, a lot of all that. Everybody's always fighting with it. But when was the last time you sat down as a family and had dinner? Not because it was a holiday, but or you sat down and shared a drink together. Everybody had a beverage, just to celebrate the new year. And what do you think is happening? And to include the children. And
Yeah.
so did you discuss that at school? He said, no, I saw it on YouTube or something. I mean, he had a wisdom sharing that hadn't come from school but had come from the media.
Yeah.
So it's also for us to find our way, hold the boundaries, but also to recognize that we also need to change the way we approach things because the world is the same, but it's also different.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. One is random impromptu conversations at home. I have a office. It's like we call it the little den because it's like it was a like a playroom when we first bought the house and we converted it into a bedroom, but it has these like paned glass doors. And
Hmm.
so like we call it the little den because we have a couch in here and stuff, but it's also my
Nice.
office and we also change the baby in here. So it's a multi-purpose room. Um, but we call it the little den. And so, I'll be in here sometimes, I'll be working or just, working on stuff. And say my daughter comes in to change the baby, and then she sits down and we just have random conversation for an hour, or we'll be in the kitchen. And it was a kind of a running joke for a while she was pregnant that 10 o'clock came and we that's when she wanted to have the most in-depth conversations. I'd be, getting ready to go to bed and she'd come out of her room and just start talking. Next thing you know, it's like, honey, I gotta go to bed. It's almost 11 o'clock. But it's like a running joke because it was like right around 10 o'clock all the time. But, at my house before this, the stairs were like right at the front door was the bottom of the stairs.
Hmm.
All of us as a family would find ourselves just randomly sitting on the steps and gathered around the steps, and we just have conversations. And it was the most random, so funny. Like people are sitting on steps, people are standing beside it. Like it was so crazy.
Funny that is. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do it so much here because our stairs it like goes up and then to the side. So
Hmm.
it's not as comfortable to hang out on, but the kitchen, the little den, my
Yeah.
room, we were all gathered in my room the other day. And it's funny because before I got married, um, being a single mom, my kids hung out in my room a lot. They
Hmm.
just come in. We just all be in my bed.
Yeah.
And even after my husband and we all moved in together, that's what they did. So they would come in our room and just be all on our bed. And to him, as a single man, he was like, it's kind of weird. Like I'm used to my room being my space.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I'm used to my room being our space. So it's
Right.
something we had to kind of adjust to. Now we have separate beds because we sleep very differently, but we share a room. But the kids, they still hang out on my bed because that's just
Yeah. Yeah.
what just
Well, and
what we
they
are.
were your children and part of your life before he was.
Right.
And
Right.
doesn't mean that you discount him. It's just that change in your dynamic, the two of you, doesn't change the energy of the family.
Right.
And how do you find a way to say, this is good and we're going to keep this? And you also have to respect that we have our own
Right.
time.
Right. Yeah.
But don't you think too that the space, so I'm the spirit of a house or the energy, the way energy flows in the building, the actual
Mhm.
structure of the house is just as big as the energy of the family that's in there, and that we gravitate to certain locations within the home because energetically they work. Like
Yeah.
um, having a family that has a counter central island in the kitchen, for instance. and that you'll find sometimes families they don't sit down, they all
Yeah.
stand up in the kitchen around the center island, and no matter what's going on, it's everybody's standing talking rather than well,
Yeah.
move it over to the table that's right there, but nobody it's not conducive to the dynamic of what the conversation, and to
Yeah.
pay attention, because you can't have the rigid rules, say,
Right.
well, why are you all standing around in the kitchen? Because that's what works, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. So kind of just continuing, because I know we have a certain amount of time, but I wanted to just say, here I'm here. I come down to my daughter's. She lives in New Mexico with my grandson. She's a single mom, and I fly down for December because my birthday, her birthday, Christmas, solstice, New Year's, all of that. And because I'm intrusive in personality, but I have to really pretty much every day remind myself, because they have their own dynamic, they have their own interaction, all of that. He's doing boy things and she's doing mom things. And I just step back and say, whatever's going on isn't your business. This is
Right.
back to, it's not my business that they have kids or not. You don't need to be interjecting. You don't need to take care of anything. You don't need to have your opinion unless you're asked.
Yeah.
And this is a very different way of being, because I'm not part of raising the child. I come as a visitor. Yes, I am the grandma, but it's not my place. And so sometimes we'll have really great conversations, and she will call and say, I'm not looking for an opinion. I'm not looking for a solution. I just want to share something with you. So then it's like I don't have to go into the I need to fix this mode.
Right.
I need
Right.
to fix this thing mode. And I think you'll find that as you grow into being a grandma too, you have to observe your daughter as a young, mature woman who has a child.
Right.
And that to, say, well, I did it this way, or I think you should do it that way. All the things that we as grandmas or, whatever, concerned aunties have to say, because we have our way of doing things and our opinions doesn't make them right or wrong. And that also is a place to step back and to observe and to remind yourself that you were a young mom and you had some of the things you had to figure out on your own, and that it wasn't always helpful
Right.
to interject or to be, I worry about different kinds of things. So you've got a young boy that wants to buy a dirt bike or a street bike or whatever. And, there's all the concerns about the age and the traffic and stuff like that. But
Right.
then I have to step back and say, when I turned 56 years old, I learned to ride a motorcycle. I bought a great big, really high powered Harley Davidson that I rode all over Kingdom Come, Canada, and cross country and stuff by myself most of the time, not even giving a thought to the fact that my kids worried about me.
Mm-hmm.
There's mom out on the road on a motorcycle going, we don't
Mm-hmm.
even know where she is. And that of course you can worry, I can worry about my grandson, and I worry about that from the place of me knowing how dangerous it is to ride. And I can share that, but I have to also remember that I didn't take into consideration that other people worried about me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When she first had my grandson, I told her, if you I said, I'm not going to tell you how to raise him. If you need help from me, please always let me know. And
Yes.
she'll try to do things on her own. And if she feels uneasy or she really stepped into this role very quickly. She's always been like the second mom, so it's like she already had it. But
Hmm.
but yeah, she really stepped in so quickly and gracefully and just I'm very proud of her. And there was a couple times in the beginning where I was like, I think like maybe you're doing this a little too early. And I got kind of frustrated. And then I stopped myself and I said, okay, she's safe. She's intelligent when it comes to her child, especially.
Mhm.
So don't be judgmental because,
Right.
and also I'm 40. So I'm not 22 anymore. I'm going to be in bed by a certain time. I'm not leaving my house after like 8 unless I absolutely have to. So, like her sister's watching the baby. It's like 8 o'clock at night. Like, what am I being judgy? You know what I mean? Like, but it was a new situation for me too. And I just
Yeah.
thought it was early, quick or whatever. But then we had a conversation and I was like, you got to remind yourself that she is intelligent and she is going to put that child first. And it's not even that we don't think that they will, right? It's just because I had my mom one time tell me, um, or one of the kids brought up that my mom had one of my kids told my mom something and she like kind of checked up on it. And I felt like she was checking up on me. But then I was like, well, in reality, those are children. And
Mhm.
the children are priority over anything, even
Yeah.
me. And I even tell my kids now, like, you're allowed to tell me if I make you feel a certain way. Be respectful about it. Like, don't be a jerk, but
Yeah.
tell me. And I think that open communication is very important, but also reminding yourself, have conversations
Yeah.
with that adult child and see where they're coming from too because
Well, and they want to hear. I mean, your daughter wants to hear, I really respect you.
yeah,
I'm blown away by what a good mom you
yeah,
are. And I, and I don't always understand. I mean, just like I don't always understand why you chose to do it something that way, but I trust you. I
yeah,
mean, we all needed that. And it is different. Because I had my first child when I was 20. I just turned 20, and there were lots of things that I did with a baby as a 20-year-old that my daughter wouldn't do with her baby as a 40-year-old because,
right,
like
right,
you say, at 40, she's not going out late at night. I look back and think my husband and I went to it was the World Expo or something in Montreal, and there was the Czech beer hall there. So I've got this little baby, like 9 month old, out in a beer hall for an Oktoberfest, every with loud music and oompa and drinking beer and all of that. And I'm looking back thinking, I think, was that out of my mind? I'm a 20-year-old with a little
right,
baby late at night.
right. Well, and my daughter was home by like 9:30. So and I was like,
Right.
what are you even stressing about? Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
So I think well, conversations like this, I hope that whoever listens can hear something that touches them or gives them a way to
right,
think about something differently or to find a different way to be, because it's so, being a mom is so beautiful and it's so hard, and nobody gave you a manual, and
right.
you can't be warned. There's no
Yeah,
way to be warned. It's like, oh my God, I never thought about what it's going to be like to have them as a teenager and they're bigger than you are, and like at 13 and they're already twice your height or something.
yeah,
So just to really have these kinds of conversations, to share personal experience, and to
yeah,
make the observations of, because this is how it's different, and if we have to be different in our families, we really
right.
do.
Well, and you said that you're a better grandmother than you were a mother.
Of
And
course, yeah.
that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you weren't a better grandmother than you were a mother, then that'd be a problem because that means
Yeah.
that you weren't growing and changing anything
Right.
from
Right.
motherhood to grandmotherhood.
Yeah. And also I would just add one more thing for me. I mean, this is all me speaking of things I've learned about myself and about the dynamic, is that the role of a grandma isn't to override the parents' decisions.
Yeah,
Grandmas are maybe more lenient, or grandmas are a little more generous, or whatever.
right.
But to really check yourself in and say, if this is my daughter's or son's, but my daughter's decision as to how she wants to raise him. It's not, I don't have the right. How dare I would think I could come in and override that or to
Right.
contradict, something that she's doing. And I think that would come with different belief systems, even. Let's
Yeah.
say you have different political positions or different religious affiliations
Yeah.
that to have permission, maybe I'd like to share a little bit about this. Is that okay, or does it conflict with what you're teaching them? Because it isn't always that families have all the same things in place.
Yeah.
They don't all
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
so
But that's not even just with parenting too, because uh that's not just parenting too, because um, you know, I've heard people say, or like see videos or people talk about like aunts and uncles like sneaking kids things that their parents say they're not
yeah.
allowed to have. And it's a conversation that I briefly had with my other kids, so my grandson's aunts. You know, that's not something we do because his mother has rules for a reason. It's not ever, I don't like people doing that with my kids. Right? Like
Mm-mm.
if I
No.
make a rule for my kids and my kids with someone, then that someone should be following my rule because that's my
Yeah.
kid. And so even if it's your family, going against that parent's rules, it's not cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just finding our way, isn't it? Being honest and respectful. And that's the hard part, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have got to get to
We've
another meeting.
Yes, we've used
So,
up our time. So, why don't just reach out and send me some options of times in January, and
yes.
we can kind of play around with another topic. And I'd love to do a little bit about the book also because I am organizing in October a retreat in Scotland, women only, for 10 days, and it's going to be focused around the concepts in the Women of the Always book.
Okay.
And so I'd love to have an opportunity to just put a little plug in there for marketing and promoting.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to say something really quick for me to add into this one?
Yeah, if you would. So the book came out this last October, Women of the Always. It's not a book just for women. It's really a book for also for men who respect and honor women, men who had a mother.
Right.
But this coming October in Southwest Scotland, I am having a 10-day retreat in focused and teaching a little workshop focused around the concepts of the book. And so it's a small gathering. It's not a tourist retreat like going to lots of different places. We're going to be staying pretty central, but in a really beautiful part of Scotland and doing some day trips. And so I will be putting that out in the next probably couple of weeks with the pricing and everything. And so any woman who feels called to some of the things that I talk about or share or feel like they would like to have more information, then they can reach out to me. And my email is always easy because it's my name, Ingrid, at ingridkincaid.com. Oh,
And where can
and
they
this
find you?
just last,
Okay.
because we were looking at it. You can, if you go to Walmart and you want to buy stuff online, you can buy my book. It's online at Walmart. We just discovered that last night. Kind of like instead of ordering through Amazon, you can go onto Walmart and look under my name and you can buy my book from Walmart.
That's
Is
crazy.
that cool? Isn't that
That is
cool?
so cool. Wait, how did that happen? Because
I
I
have no
want to
idea.
do
I
that.
have no idea. You can Barnes and Nobles and Amazon and books.org and all that, but then it's just like, oh, it popped up on Walmart.
That is so
There you
cool.
go. Even for the ordinary.
Congratulations.
No, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I
Yeah,
look forward
you're
to it.
welcome. And congratulations, Grandma.
Thank you.
You can always send pictures. I always love looking at babies.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Just the Who of Us. We hope today's conversation offered reflection, comfort, or a moment of clarity. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who may need it. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you're not alone in the journey.